Well, we're live with comedian Don Zollo. I have my co-host Billy Allen, also host of Open Season. You can catch him on Tuesday nights, 7:30. Don, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Happy to be here in my kitchen. Thanks for having me.
How's quarantine going?
Mostly good. I have my ups and downs. I think that all of us go a little Corona crazy every now and then, and your judgment gets clouded, and you get frustrated, and you act like a fucking weirdo, and then you're like, "Oh, I'm back. I'm normal again." Uh, I'd like to say it's smooth sailing all the time, but I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how I'm coping.
Have you been participating in the? I've seen fellow comedians getting involved in the Facebook drama of the coronavirus. It's real. If you think it's the flu, you should kill yourself. Kill yourself.
Is that limited to comedians? I think it's like anybody. I'm a little bit sick over it. Like, I'm doing my best to stay out of it. I'm doing my best to stay out of bullshit in general, especially on Facebook. I'd like to say I'm perfect at it, but that's far from the truth. But I'm a lot better than I used to be. I don't know if you really followed me on Facebook. I'd have the ability to like make some comment or post that I don't think is really that controversial and wake up to like 400 comments, So I'm doing my best to stay away from it. I don't want to get tied up in the bullshit, but like I accidentally got involved in it the other day. I was at Trader Joe's and I've noticed the progression from like, if you had a mask on, oh, that guy's a fucking weirdo. He's kind of a psychopath. He's a real germaphobe. To, oh, about half the people have masks. And then maybe a little bit more than half. And then last week I went to, or maybe 2 weeks ago, whatever, I went to Trader Joe's and I noticed I was the only person that didn't have a mask. And I was like, oh, am I fucked up for this? So I made some comment, just joking around. I said something to the effect of like, just noticed I'm the only person at Trader Joe's without a mask. I figured I'd meet him halfway, so I'm putting in my headphones. like my headphones are the mask.
Yeah.
I can't believe the amount of shit that I took. Like, I didn't realize people were that upset about this. And I had a few like real hateful emails from people. And I was like, wow, this is really shaking some people's worlds while other people view it as the flu. Like, I guess that's the world we live in terms of like, half the world's over here, half the world's over here, and there's no middle ground. You know what I mean?
Well, today was the rally, right? There was a rally in Boston today.
I heard about it. Somebody sent me one picture, and I can agree with their point, but I've seen a lot of rallies and protests and stuff where they were socially distanced. The one shot I saw was an aerial photo, and they were looking down towards everybody, and they were like on top of one another. And I was like, you can make your point and I'll still be 6 feet away.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, I think you're only fucking yourself. Oh, which, by the way, you guys cool with swearing? I should have asked.
It's after 8 o'clock.
Okay. I think it'd be a problem, but I mean, I don't know.
Dad, is that cool?
Yeah. Well, I was telling Billy that you're like the Tony Robbins of Facebook now, with all these different challenges that you've been doing, where you like torture yourself on purpose, which I find fascinating.
Torture myself, but not really. But yes, but no. It's. I get your point. I basically ended up started doing this thing. I'll go back a few months. I decided I was going to do a triathlon. I was like, I got to do something. I need something to focus on. I felt very drifting, and I was like, I was out of shape, and I was like, I'm going to do a half Ironman. And I picked a half Ironman because I was like, that was close enough that the finish line would be in sight. I was like, if I'm going to do a full Ironman, I'm like, I'm going to have to train for like a year for that. And I was like, the goal wasn't going to be like within my reach. So I was like, if I pick a half Ironman, I can do it like 5 months out. And so I committed to do a half Ironman. And then I just posted one day, decided I'm doing a half Ironman. Does anybody know anything about training? And somebody said, my friend lives in Boston. Reach out to this person. And this person told me about 75 hard.
Billy, have you heard of that?
75 hard?
75 hard. Yeah. Have you heard of that?
No.
All right, Don, tell him what it is.
It's a it's a mental and emotional challenge that will yield you physical results. And this is what I mean. It's a 75-day challenge program, and these are the parameters of it. You got to work out twice a day. Each workout's going to be at least 45 minutes. One of the workouts has to be outside. So if there's a foot of snow on the ground, you're working out in a foot of snow. If it's 100 degrees outside, good luck. If it's pouring rain, put on a jacket and go out. That's it. So you work out twice a day, 45 minutes a time minimum. One of them has to be outside. You got to drink a gallon of water a day, which I drink a lot of water to begin with, but there's 128 ounces in a gallon. And I probably drink between 100 and 110 all the time anyways. So drinking that little extra water wasn't that big of a deal to me, but making sure you do it and measure it and disciplining yourself to constantly be saying, okay, where am I at with my water take? That takes a lot of work. You got to take a progress picture every day, which is incredibly easy to do, but it's incredibly easy to forget. So you get up every day, you take a shirtless selfie in the mirror, and you just kind of get an idea of how your body's changing. Then you got to follow a nutrition plan, no cheat meals, none. And read 10 pages a day of a self-improvement book. And then, also no booze, but I think that falls under the common sense of, no cheat meals or anything like that. When the person told me about this, they started, and if you screw any of these up, you go back to day one. So that's the really mentally taxing part, is when you get to be like 35 days in, you're like, I don't want to throw away 35 days of hard work. And if I fuck up taking a picture and I forget to do it, bye-bye, 35 days. You go back to day one. So it's really like you got to stay focused.
Did you get it right on the first try, or did you have to go back? On the
first try. And then
wow, that's impressive.
The idea
you never forgot any step within the 75 days. Wow.
Nothing. I had it so ingrained into me midway through, it was ridiculous. By like day 30, it was like not even 30. Like, I don't know, by day 15, I was constantly remembering what to do. I put these little fail safes in. Like, I'd have my phone send me a message every day at like 10 o'clock, like water, reading, workouts, just so that I had something flashing in front of my face. I pretty much made sure that like as soon as I got out of bed in the morning, like I'm talking like the first thing, my feet would hit the ground, I'd pick up the phone, go over to the mirror, snap a picture. That's done. So there was only like one day where I forgot to take the picture till later in the day. And it wasn't even that late. It was like I took it at noon, but I was fucking freaking out at like 10:30 in the morning. Like, oh my God, I haven't taken a picture yet. You got to stay focused. This was the closest I was to fucking up. And it was on day 73. I woke up, take my picture, doing my drinks, all this, got my reading. So I go and I do a workout, and I went to this gym. It's called F45. It's like an indoor functional training group class thing. It's great. I love it. So I went there, worked out. I got out, it was like 9:30 or 10:30 in the morning, and I was like, I feel fucking good. I feel really good. I feel great. And I go, you know what? I'm going to go work. I'm going to bang out my second workout, like almost on the heels of this one, like I'm going to do it like in 20 minutes or something. So I was sitting in my car, I'm playing around, doing text messages, whatever. I drove to LA Fitness, and I go, all right, I'm going to get on the bike. I'll do 45 minutes on the bike. And I did my 45 minutes on the bike. I went about my day, and at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I was just reflecting on my day, which is something that I built into the program. Like, okay, you got your text message that you're popping up on your phone, so you remember there, but you should also every day around 5 or 6 o'clock just reflect on everything you've done, see where the water's at, see where, if you have both workouts done. I'm reflecting, and I was like, yep, went to F45, then I went and I did my bicycling. Wait a second. I went to LA Fitness and rode an indoor bicycle. So that would have been 2 indoor workouts.
That's what I was thinking.
I didn't even notice it. I did an entire 45-minute workout, and I was just like, all I said to myself was, I'm going to go for a bike. And I don't know, mentally, I just drove to the gym and got on an exercise bike and didn't even notice it. I noticed it at about 5 o'clock and I fucking freaked. Luckily, I was fucking exhausted that day. All I did was go for a walk for my second workout. Now that's important. You can go for a walk. He says it, the guy that created it, his name is Andy Frisella. And he said, you know, when you're doing your workouts, he's like, one of them has to be outside. He goes, and I remember he said this, he goes, he goes, drag your weight bench out there, do push-ups, sit-ups outside. He goes, drag an elliptical. He goes, go for a fucking walk. I don't care as long as it's outside. And I was like, that was important to me, is that he said, go for a walk. Because there were times throughout the 75 days where my body was beat up. And I was like, yeah, I might be able to jog for 45 minutes, but I'm going to be hurting myself a lot more than getting benefit from it. So there were some days where I sprinkled in walks.
God, I'm already so impressed of you. Like, just the fact that you did this is like, I mean, that's like serious stuff, being able to do that for 75 days.
Wait, so what were the results?
So I went from like 199 pounds down to 171. So it's like 28 pounds.
Wow.
Which I'm thrilled about. But honestly, mental, emotional, that's what it's first and foremost. And I always say your body just gets dragged along for the ride. Like, I became a lot happier of a person. I was in like a little bit of a dark place mentally. And there was a lot of times, the way I phrase it in hindsight, last year, starting in the fall, there would be times, this is how I would say it, the loser molecules start creeping in your head, like, oh my God, what do I do about this situation? What do I do about that situation? This ain't working, that ain't working. And then it kind of feeds into like a self-fulfilling, shitty prophecy. The guy that created this, his name's Andy Frisella, and this is what he said that I loved. He goes, each time you fulfill a self-promise, you build self-confidence. And the whole entire time that you're doing this, I mean, let's say that you eat 6 meals a day or 5 meals a day. Let's say 5. That's easier math. That's 350. That's 375 meals. Okay, let's just pretend you eat 5 meals a day. You have to eat 375 meals without having pizza, cheeseburger, French fries, whatever you want. So each time you have a healthy meal, you're fulfilling a self-promise. Each time you go through a full day and drink 128 ounces of water, you fulfilled a self-promise. Each time you work out twice a day, you fulfilled 2 self-promises. I did the math one day. I wish I remember the number, but there's like over 800 self-promises that you have to fulfill to yourself with no other accountability. And when you do that, you go 800 for 800 on promises to yourself, you build a massive amount of self-confidence. You really do.
Did you ever
feel like you can do anything?
Yeah.
After that, I mean, you feel like you could probably walk across the U.S.
Well, this is what they say. Like, how do I say it? You do it to show yourself that you can do hard things, that you can do challenging things, and to prove to yourself. When I say yourself, you're telling your mind, hey, if I say I'm going to do something, I fucking do it. You know, the idea being like, if if I go out now and say, I want to make $1 million this year, it's like, well, Don said he's going to make $1 million. So now my mind will start to go to work on ways to make that happen, because my mind knows that I mean business. You know, they're like, fuck, look what this psychopath just did for the past 75 days. So
no, that's did you ever not have time? I mean, I feel like time would be the problem for me. I'm like, how do I have time to do that? I've tried the gallon of water, and it's like a job when you get up and you're like, oh wait, it's already 10 a.m. I forgot to drink. I haven't drank anything yet. I'm already.
I was pretty good about drinking stuff right up when I get up in the morning. So I mean, a lot of times I get out of like a 9:30 gym class at like 10:30 in the morning, and I'd be like, I got 68 ounces of water done already. So I'm like, now I only got 60 ounces to go. Most of the time, I ended up drinking like at least, I'd say like 170 ounces a day, because I'd make it like, I got to get the water done, just check the box. Yeah, and I might drink 128 ounces by say 5:30 at night. And now it's like by 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I'm like, I'm actually thirsty. Like I actually want water. But the time I didn't find that challenging, I was telling somebody, if you are super disciplined and you don't bullshit around, I mean, 2 45-minute workouts, that's an hour and a half. And then you take into consideration how long it takes you to read 10 pages of a book. For me, I would be reading these pages and also taking notes. So I don't know, like I'd say maybe 45 minutes. So that's 2 hours and 15 minutes every day if you're super disciplined to go do all of the stuff, because all the other things that you got to do, take a progress picture, that doesn't take any time. Drinking water, I mean, it doesn't really take any of your time. It's just discipline. You know, eating healthy, again, you're going to be eating anyways, just you have to eat healthy food.
So what was your diet like?
I did loosely following Body for Life principles. Actually, I shouldn't even say loosely, because when I say loosely, this is what I mean. Body for Life was a book that came out, and they said you should have a 40-40-20 macronutrient split, meaning 40% protein, 40% carbs, 20% fat. And they said you don't have to be a Nazi about this and count calories. They said a portion is the size of a clenched fist. A portion of protein, a portion of carbohydrates is the size of a clenched fist. So a sweet potato, a can of tuna, a chicken breast, you know, some steak. If you want to have, I don't know, couscous or quinoa or whatever you'd be having. I wouldn't have any junk food carbs, nothing high sugar. But basically, or like if I'd have eggs with sprouted grain bread for toast, and I'd have like 1 or 2 slices of toast in the morning. So it was very like just eyeball my portions, but that's what I did, was basically, 40% protein, 40% carbs, 20% fat. And then I'd just go to F45 and go running. Those are my 2 workouts.
That's unbelievable, man. My biggest problem is that I feel like I always use my age as a crutch. I'm like, I'm 42. And I'm like, man, I'm 42. There's no way I'm ever going to get back in the shape that I was, when I was in college. Do I really want to try to start, I'll start working out and then I'll stop because either I'll get injured because I'm trying to lift the same weight that I lifted back in school, stuff like that.
Dude, when I was in school, I bench pressed 300 pounds. And a few years ago, I was like, I'm getting strong again. Yeah, all right. You know what? I think I might be able to get like 300 again. And I remember I did 265 on the bench, and I was proud of myself. I got it for, I think it was 6 reps. The following week, I went back and I tried to do the 265 again. And like a fucking idiot, I didn't warm up. And I asked this kid to spot me. He lifted the weight with me. And I don't think he should have done this. He like lifted it and jerked. And I think that might have had something to do with it. But I just remember the weight just went, and I just tore my whole pec apart. It was brutal. So I get the whole entire, you get older, you can't quite do what you used to.
Yeah.
But I also say this, I can do a lot of shit now that I couldn't do when I was younger. I think the most
mental
I ever did in my life, when I was in really good shape, I could do 14. I did 17, maybe like a month and a half ago. I was never able to do that. Now, granted, I'm thinner, so that helps. But I'm like, I also thought about that. I was like, body weight exercises are the true litmus test of fitness, because, my body's lighter, but I'm able to lift my body more times with push-ups or pull-ups or whatever it is. Or, if running a distance, I'm still just carrying my body. So whatever time you come in. So like, let's say that I can run a mile. I don't know if I can. Let's say I can run a mile faster now than I could when I was 30. Well, I weighed more when I was 30. So, I'm sure if I weighed 100, I weigh about 170 right now. 70 when I was 30, I'd probably be able to run a faster mile than I can now. But I also, I probably weighed, I don't know, 190 to 200, somewhere around there.
So how long was it between when you made the decision and when you actually went for it like 100%?
So this dude who I didn't even know, who told me about it, I think it's funny. I look at the conversation on the phone, I'm talking to a stranger who's telling me about this program and how much of an impact it had on him. And now I know you don't have intricate knowledge of Don Zollo's life, but I like to drink. I don't go out and drink 5 nights a week or something, but historically, I would say I'm a very consistent 1 night a week drinker, like very consistent. And if you go back to certain times in my life, like college, I mean, that can go up to 3 or 4 nights a week or whatever. But my point is, I've never taken long periods of time off of alcohol. And this dude was telling me about the program, and he started it and he goes, so it's 75 days. And the first thing is no booze. And I was like, nope, forget it. And I just remember my arms got crossed and I was like, fuck that, no way. And I looked down and I was like, dude, look at my body language. I'm talking to this guy on the phone and I'm already closed off and angry. And then he tells me about, if you screw this thing up, you go back to day one. And I was like, fuck that. And I was really walls up on it. I was pretty anti 75 hard. And he kept he goes, please let me finish. He goes, let me just get through and tell you my perspective. And he told me his perspective and what it did for him. Basically, if I can summarize this story super quick, it was he got into marathons. He really wanted to qualify for the Boston Marathon. And he's like, I just wasn't improving fast enough. And he goes, I got to this race and he goes, I improved 10 minutes and I trained all this time. He's like, mentally, I wasn't ready or emotionally. And somebody told him about 75 hard. And he goes, I trained for 4 months. And he goes, I did my next marathon. And he goes, I took my time from 3 hours and 30 minutes down to 2 hours and 59 minutes. And he qualified for the Boston Marathon. So when I was ready to hang up the phone with him, I said, all right, I'm going to think it over. And I will say this, and I'm being real when I say this. I wasn't saying it just to get off the phone with him. I was really I will think this over. But I wasn't ready to commit to do it, but I was like, I'll think it over. I think I had that phone call with him on December 23rd. It might have been December 22nd. On Christmas Eve day, it was really rattling around in my head. And I was like, I think I'm just going to do this program. And Christmas Eve is a huge day for the Italians, and the day had already started. There's no way I was going to start on Christmas Eve day because I'm already too far into the day, and I probably had already eaten something at that point. But I said, I'm going to start tomorrow, meaning Christmas Day.
That's insane.
That's the Super Bowl of eating. And I was like, I'm going to start tomorrow. And
no one starts on Christmas. Wow.
This fucking idiot. I started it on Christmas. I went to Kowloon with my brother that day. That's what we did. We're pretty much the only family left in this area. And I just watched him eat Chinese food and I just stared at him. And then I went over a friend's house that night and they were all eating everything and drinking. And I was literally on day one, when it's so easy to quit on day one. It's super easy to quit on day one. And they were like, oh, you sure you don't want to drink? Why don't you start tomorrow? And I was like, no, I'm starting now. And I did it. And I remember I went to Lake Tahoe to visit some friends and they're party guys. And there was a lot of peer pressure the first hour I was there. And they're like, dude, this diet sounds fucked up. And I'm like, it's not a diet. It's not no one seems to get it. I'm like, it's about this. And I go, your body just changes. But I'm like, it's something I need to do. And they're like, oh, that's nice. Okay, well, here, drink this. And they're being adamant about it. And they're not soft-spoken guys either. And I remember about 15 minutes in, at one point, I turned to one of them. I go, I'm not fucking drinking. And everyone in the room was just like, oh, shit. And they backed off for the rest of the week. But that was around days, I don't know, 65. And I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going to go have a beer and just throw away 65 days. It's not fucking worth it to me. So if you're all fucked up with that, I took a week off after I finished it, and then I went to the second phase of their program, and it's only 30 days. But here's the hard part. It's everything from the first section, and then you throw in 10 minutes of visualization a day, 5-minute ice cold shower, and 3 powerless tasks. A powerless task is something that takes you towards the attainment of your goal. So like for me in comedy, I would be like, I've been getting a lot better with this. I don't like to be in front of a camera, which I find ironic. I'm like, I have no problem going in front of, hundreds of people all the time and, doing jokes and dancing for them. But I'm like, you put me in front of a camera, and I used to be like super uncomfortable. So like I'd say, all right, my powerless task is if I make a video for Facebook, that's a powerless task. If I write for a half hour, that's a powerless task. If I talk over bits with another comedian for a half hour, that's a powerless task. So all total, between the 3 powerless tasks, the 5-minute ice cold shower, and the 10 minutes of visualization, you were taking everything from 75 hard and adding 2 hours onto it every day. So I did that during the quarantine, and I'm not bullshitting yet. I was doing like upwards of 7 hours a day of stuff. And I remember thinking, like, if I was, out working and commuting and all that stuff, I'm like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't like, because there would be times that I get really frustrated, like, it just seems like it never stops. Like, it's like, I'm right on the heels of 75 hard. Now I'm doing this next program, and it's even more intense, and it's just like it never fucking ends. But I got through it, and yeah.
Well, good for you, man. Do you is it? I mean, obviously, no one's doing comedy now, but does it help you with your comedy? Getting up, writing and getting up on stage.
He's not a professional athlete, Ed. I mean,
what?
I said he's not a professional athlete, Ed. I mean,
well,
you don't have to be well conditioned,
but not in the way that you would think. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I banged out so many gems of. Actually, the other thing too is when I was really focused on the powerless task, that was during the quarantine, so I didn't do any shows while I was writing. But when you're reading the 10 pages a day, the self-improvement book, I read, I think it was 7 books in 75 days. I'd find myself like reading 20, 30 pages a day, even though I only needed to read 10. But there's something to it. Maybe it's just reading every day, or maybe it's reading every day with all the exercise, and then the fact that it's all self-improvement books, but it really plays with your head in a good way. And I was learning a lot about myself, and there was some things that I learned in some of these books that I was like kind of looking back on my life like, Jesus Christ, no wonder I'm so fucked up, And like, I'm not saying this in a bragging way or whatever, but I'm like, I had some shows in January, February that I was like, I'd be driving home going, I can't believe how fucking well that went. Like, oh my God, like that was a different level. Or like, I'd start getting all these people, like, emails from like other comedians, like, dude, you destroyed tonight. Like, oh my God, you cried. And I was really touched. Like, I remember going to bed reading a couple of like emails and being like, I can't believe these people are taking the time to write this to me. And it meant a lot. Like, and some of them are like, people whose comedy I'm absolutely blown away by, which makes you enjoy the compliment even more. And I was talking with this chick who's a singer, and I was telling her about this, and this is what she said to me. I go, I'm not even changing up that much in my material. I threw in a few extra jokes, but I really seem to be doing like a lot better. And she goes, you're stripping away layers of bullshit that have just been heaped on you over the years. And she goes, you might be delivering like a lot of the same jokes. She goes, but you're coming across as more authentic to the audience now when you deliver them. And she's like, you might not even know that you're changing, but she's like, the audience is getting better it resonates better with the audience because of the way that you're speaking more authentically. And I was like, you might be right. I'm like, I've never heard that before, but that makes sense. Because I go, I haven't really changed the jokes that much, but I go, I can't believe how much better it's been going. And so my point is, yeah, I think I became a better comedian because of it, but it wasn't because I had this like, extra hour of material that I developed in the last, 75 days.
Yeah, no, I totally think. I mean, I think personally, I think it comes down to delivery, and the better that you feel, the better the delivery is going to be. And I'll tell you what, for me, the first time I did the studio, and I saw myself on that TV that they had up there, that was the day where I decided that I was probably going to end up quitting comedy, because I saw myself on screen and I was like, wow, you really have gained a lot of weight.
Isn't that fucking awesome?
And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be up there anymore. And I think I did one more show. I did that big show at Foxwoods that you and I were on that radio show together when I was promoting that with Al Park. And that was pretty much the last time that I even attempted to do comedy. I had already had that in the works when I did the studio, and I was like, wow, I'm not getting up on stage anymore.
And so like you didn't get up on stage because you felt fat?
Yes. Yep.
All right. When was that, Eddie? What year was that when you stopped?
It had to be 2000, like 10. Yeah, like 2010, 2011.
All right. I never quit comedy because I was fat, but let me tell you, I'd be like, yeah, I don't like to be videoed. Or
yeah, I still write jokes. I mean, I have a ton of jokes that I write, and I know I'm still funny, but I'm not gonna get up on stage until I do something like you did and lose like 25 pounds.
Well, dude, I mean, you've listened to me.
You gotta try 75 hard, Eddie.
Apparently, it sounds hard. Yeah.
Well, that's the point of it. It's not 75 easy. If you like, I know I've fucking yammered on about this thing for 32 minutes. And I mean, I won't yammer on about it that much more on this, but if you want, I mean, I'll talk to you one-on-one afterwards about this.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
I really can't say enough about it. And the mental emotional change is more impressive than the physical change. And I'm sincere when I say that. Like, and there's a Facebook page, and I mean, I just read everybody's posts, and like we all kind of say the same thing. Like I was reading some post the other day, and this dude was like, I'm on day 70. And he's like, I went to go meet friends, and they're like, dude, this is a really fucked up diet you're on. They're like, you look great. You don't need to lose any more weight. Just have a fucking beer with us. And he's like, no. And he's like, they just don't get it. And he's like, yeah, how much weight am I going to lose between day 70 and 75? He goes, I don't know. I don't really fucking care. He's like, it's about finishing. It's about following through. It's about honoring your self-promise. It's about building confidence. And he's like, you either get it or you don't. And, I'll just say this, it meant a lot to me to finish it. I probably had 15 or 20 people that send me emails that were like, dude, I'm really impressed with that. I want to try it. And I say, let's split the difference. Let's call it 18 people. Out of 18 people, one made it to 40 days. One is still going right now. He's on day 38. And there's some dude who's, I would say, on day 21, and another one who's on day 10, and the other 14 no one got past day 10 out of the other 14 people.
Wow.
Yeah. It takes a while.
No,
you're not a good mentor then.
I think all the other people are just pieces
Dude,
of
I'll tell you what, I look forward, because you were posting videos almost, I think, every day, right? When you were doing it?
Because I was like, they had to count as my powerless task. It was a lot quicker to make a video than to write for a half hour.
I mean, it got to a point where you started looking forward to the videos that you were posting, because you would post them from like the middle of the woods with like sweat dripping off you. I'm like, this guy is insane.
I thought you were saying I look forward to posting the videos, meaning, and I was like,
no, I'm saying I was looking forward to it.
Like, doing the videos meant that I didn't have to write for a half hour, which, hooray. Which is another life lesson. If you ever want to achieve a huge goal in your life, just fucking make another goal that's even bigger, because it'll make you be like, I really want to achieve this. Well, that's really hard, but I'll go for this one because it's easier. And if this is an impressive goal, at least you'll do it. You know what I mean? In the case of like, I would do the videos because I didn't want to write for another half hour. Anyways, I'm getting off point, but
no, that's great. That's awesome, man. Now,
No, that's
how long
really truly impressive.
How
Thank
long
you.
have you been doing comedy for?
2008. So
Really?
yeah, 12 years.
I feel like you. Now, what were you doing before that?
Selling copiers was my job when I started, and I do real estate, but yeah, it'll be 12 years in August. I started kind of in 2007. I did 10 open mics, 5 minutes at a time. I got no laughs, none. So 10 open mics times 5 minutes is 50 minutes being on stage with no laughs, none. That hurts your feelings like you can't fucking fathom. And I just remember being like, I can't take it. Like, I can't do this. Like, it hurts too much. And I quit for a year, came back. I remember I went to the Green Dragon. It was a Monday night, and I saw these three hot chicks sitting in, like, I'll call it the front row. The Green Dragon front row, but it's as front rowish as you can get. And I was like, oh God, I don't want to bomb in front of anyone, but I'm like, I really don't want to bomb in front of these three hot chicks. Oh. So I go up, I do 5 minutes, and everybody laughed at everything I did. And I was like, holy crap. So I sat down at the bar and I was just like kind of like amazed at what had just happened. And the bartender came over and he was like, excuse me, he's like, those young ladies over there wanted me to give you this. And he puts a drink down in front of me. And I just remember I looked over at the three hot chicks and I picked up my drink and I thought to myself, I can still remember this. I go, well, I guess I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And they're like, I don't think they understand how much sending over that one drink meant to me, good or bad. Like, believe me, comedy isn't always pleasant. It can hurt your feelings a lot. But I'm like, I gotta say, like, honestly, if they didn't send that drink over, I don't know if I would have kept following through. Like, because that, I don't know what happened the next couple times I went out on stage, but I don't remember like doing the Green Dragon then that night and then being like, oh, I got this down. Like, that wasn't the case. So, you know, maybe the next time it didn't go so well, maybe I would have quit again. Maybe. But I remember being like, those three hot chicks sent me over a drink because they enjoyed my set so much. And I was like, it kept me going.
No, I'll tell you, I started
one of the things that keep us going, like kids or whatever. You
doing
got the
comedy
three hot chicks.
Doing comedy in Boston is extremely hard. Like, I grew up in Connecticut and I started in New York, where, you know, you get to bring your own audience with you in New York. Like, because they have all the bringer shows. So all the comedians are bringing their own audience, right? Which makes people laugh. It doesn't happen in Boston. That's not the way. You're literally in a room full of comedians.
I don't have too much New York experience. I've probably done like, I don't know, maybe 10 shows there in my whole life.
Yeah.
I don't really have enough to judge it, and I haven't done it recently. But I do think that Boston is a very like, all right, you got 7 seconds to make me laugh.
Right.
You know what I mean? The 7 seconds, I'm turning over here and I'm not even paying attention. I was talking with Maya Mannion. You know Maya?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
She's a Rhode Island comedian. She's wicked funny. And we were talking about how Boston is very like, you know, it's like you got to fucking make them laugh and quick. But if you go to Worcester, I just feel like Worcester to me is like the most, I don't know. They're my people. Like I fucking love going to Worcester. I'm just like, the vibe in Worcester, I don't know. They enjoy me. I enjoy them. I have a great time going. And I'm just like, I was like, I should like work for like the Worcester Chamber of Commerce or something. I'll just like love this place. But I do think Boston is it's probably a very challenging city to do comedy. But I'm like,
well, especially if you're not from here. You know, I'm like, I remember when I got the chance to do it at the studio. I'm like, I've been in New York. I've been in this club, that club. And it's like a totally different audience, because literally not one joke I told that I usually would get laughs from, I think I maybe got like 1 or 2 laughs, and I was like, wow, this is a really interesting crowd.
Well, you're in Cambridge too. That's another thing. Cambridge is 2 miles away from like Boston proper, but It's a totally different mindset over there. I'm not exactly a Cambridge guy. Like, I don't know how to say it. Like, I think I'm a little bit too coarse for them. I'm a little too, I don't know, politically incorrect or whatever you want to call it. But like, I'm not exactly Cambridge's number one person. I was saying to actually, I think I was talking to Meyer about it. I remember I did a show in Cambridge last year, and I was like, this went surprisingly well. Like, I didn't think it would go this well because I'm usually not that well received there. And I think it's hilarious because it's only like I said, like a mile and a half, 2 miles away from regular Boston. But it's a different mindset in Cambridge. It really is.
No, well, I remember getting off stage. I'm like, and I was listening to the other comics. I think it was a night when Mike Kaplan was there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, wow, these guys write like real jokes where they have like a real punch. They're not just out there being funny. They're actually writing real jokes, which I wasn't doing. I was just telling, regular jokes that I would tell in New York, about whatever happened to you that day.
I actually, in a lot of ways, respect that even more. Like, if you have, I don't know how to say it. Like, Louis C.K. isn't necessarily set up, punch, set up, punch, set up, punch joke structure. It's like you like watching Louis C.K. because it's like you get his personality and the vibe. And the same thing with Burr. I mean, I'm not saying that either of these guys are bad joke writers. They're fucking brilliant. But
yeah,
it's like you love their personality and like the way that they just resonate with the audience when they're talking. Whereas like Mike Kaplan, fucking master joke. Like, he's so good at joke writing.
It's unbelievable.
It's like fucking freakish, he knows how to write jokes well. I mean, he delivers, he has a good delivery too. But like, I get your point about he's a very like set up, punch, boom, boom, boom structure type of guy.
Yeah. Now, have you had any I mean, you're pretty good. I mean, you're a great comedian. Like, I've seen a lot of your sets, and you're pretty funny. But do you think it's easier or harder to make it now in comedy than it was in, say, like, the early 2000s, maybe or even the 90s? It feels like now,
I think
everyone's telling jokes, right? Facebook, Twitter, memes, your YouTube. You're competing with a lot of different, areas of content.
I think there's a lot more possibilities now. But there's also a lot more comedians now too. I don't have numbers on it, but I'm like, everyone and their sister can be a comedian now. Like, there's people that don't even do stand-up that just call themselves comedians that are on Instagram or whatever. And I'm not shitting on them. I mean, it is what it is, and that's its own market. And
I'm trying to learn TikTok right now.
I just downloaded it. That's how to say it. I'm learning TikTok. Like, I find it entertaining, but I'm like, I don't really know what to do yet. But yeah, there's a lot more opportunities, but there's a lot more competition. I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens after the quarantine. I'm wondering if there's going to be some attrition of comics, if some people will just fade away.
How has it changed your like day to day?
What happens in a year from now? And that's the other thing is, when are we going to come back? I have no idea.
Oh,
I mean, restaurants might start opening in a month, but are comedy clubs? And if so, are the people going to have masks on in the comedy club? Are they going to have seating capacity that's only one half of what the room normally has? I mean, it's going to be weird. I don't know.
Or, I mean, are people going to go out? Like, that's why I'm on literally both sides of the argument about the virus, because on one side I'm like, well, I'm going to stay in my house, but I think we should go outside. I don't really know, but I'm not going to take that chance. But it's like, does the virus on like June 25th just pack up and say, hey guys, I'm done killing everyone. See you later? Like, at some point we have to go out, people have to face it.
Right. And I also think it's good to be outside.
You just don't want to be the one to do it.
That's true. I don't want to be the one to do it.
I don't have a problem being outside, but I'm like, I can see, like, if you don't want to be in a crowded comedy club on May 10th, right, or like whatever, June 10th or whatever. I get it. I get that. But I'm like, as far as doing your outdoor activities, I don't know. As long as you're not on top of one another. Like, the fact that they're closing beaches, I think that is so fucked up. It's crazy. I'm like, it's the beach. And they talk about people going in the water. There's no fucking way that this thing is. I mean, look, let me preface, I'm not a scientist, but I really don't think that you're at risk for getting this thing if you're in the same ocean as somebody. I don't think that you're at risk for doing that. Beaches should be open, you know. Outdoor areas, parks should all be open.
The golf course, I still don't understand. They said that they're going to open the golf course for walking, but not for golf. Are there not areas to walk already? Like they have to open the golf course for walking?
I don't get that.
Because they've closed down the parks. It doesn't make any sense. They've closed down the parks.
I hadn't heard that, but I'll take your word for it. I also said, I was talking to one of my friends the other day. I go, they should open tennis courts. Like the only contact you're having is the fact that I pick up a ball and you pick up a ball. That's it. That's the only contact that you could possibly get, is that you're touching the same ball. And if that's the case, I don't know, throw on a fucking set of gloves and call it a day. But if you want to play tennis, you should be allowed to play tennis. Basketball, fair enough. We don't have to play basketball for the next few months. I can understand that. But I'm like, the other thing too is we're not going to completely stop this. Like the whole entire idea of the quarantine was to just let the hospitals get caught up and, you know, be able to,
right.
They're caught up now. You know, they're prepped. Like we can't live in our houses. We just can't. I think we should just go outside and be responsible and be respectful of people. That's what my feelings are.
Yeah, no, I agree. I saw something the other day where it was like Americans eventually herd immunity has to build up. That's how viruses die out. But no one wants to go outside to develop herd immunity.
Well, a lot of people do.
Well, they're not letting you.
Yeah, they're not letting you. And the other thing is the shaming. I had a friend who was telling me a story today, and she was saying she was going for a run, and this woman came out and just started screaming at her because she was outside running without a formal mask on. She had something that almost like a high turtleneck, and it like went up to here, and she goes, if I got into a place where I felt like I was running past like a group of people, she's like, I do one of these. But she goes, I was running in an open space and this woman came up and just fucking went batshit lunatic on her. And I'm like, that's insane. Like you're outside, you're running, you're not in anybody's face. I don't know. But you know what? That comes out of fear. That's what that comes out of. That woman that went nuts on her is fucking really messed up because she's so scared of it, you know?
I mean, I guess I'm scared. I mean, they tell me to be scared, so
they tell you to be.
I guess I'm supposed to be scared, but I don't know.
Are you just another one of the sheep, Eddie?
I don't want to be one of the sheep, but they're making me be one of the sheep because I'm a hypochondriac. So I have no choice but to like be fearful.
I'm not really scared about it on a personal level. I mean, I don't want to see anybody die or anything, especially any of my loved ones. I mean, I'll be sincere about that. But I'm not personally scared of it at all. I
read today that they said that baseball is coming back July 2nd.
Did they really?
They said that's going to be opening day, July 2nd. Yeah, they haven't announced if they're going to allow fans, but they said every ballpark they're going to be playing at all the parks.
I think they should try and bring back the NBA playoffs. I mean, if you test those guys, as long as nobody has it, like, and you go on the court and you play in front of an empty stadium, I'd be down for seeing the NBA playoffs like that this year.
I mean, they had a bunch of guys that had it, you know, and they were fine. I mean, they had a bunch of guys that got it, right? Rudy Gobert got it.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell got it, and they were like in better health than I am.
Well, that's the other thing too. Those guys are.
There are a bunch of guys on the Nets who got it too. Kevin Durant had it.
Oh, yeah, Kevin Durant had it. Yeah. So,
I was talking with Chris Tapp recently, and we were saying, you know, like people should take this as a wake-up call to get in better shape. He goes, you know, like get in better shape for the rest of your life. But they're like, you know, if this thing sticks around for the next year, get a head start on it. Lose 20 pounds. Like if you need to lose 20 pounds, lose 20 pounds. If you need to quit smoking, quit smoking. Because if you do get this in the next year, if you're 20 pounds lighter or you're not smoking, your odds of being okay shoot through the roof, like ridiculous. So I hope people take it as a wake-up call for their own health.
Did you listen to the Brady interview with Howard Stern? I know you did because you're a Brady fan. Well, at the end of the interview, Howard asked him about, the virus or whatever, and Tom Brady was like, "I don't understand why, we're not promoting how to build our immune systems,
I agree with
as
him.
opposed to how to react to it." And then, of course, Howard's like, "How much water do you drink a day?" He's like, "Oh, a few gallons." I'm like, "A few gallons?"
2 gallons of water.
He said a few. He said a few gallons.
I read his book, and I think he said that at the most he ever consumes is 3 gallons, but that's fucking insane if you do that all the time. Like, that's insane.
He must be pissing like a racehorse nonstop.
So what was in this book? Is he like he's not a vegetarian, is he?
No, he does something called the seasonal diet. I can't really explain it that well, but he eats, I think they described it as heartier meals in the winter, like more meat and vegetables and potatoes. And in the summer, he has more salads and eats a lot of light fruits and stuff like that. I don't really remember the full context of his diet. I did read the book. I just wanted to see his side of the story. I don't like that people shit on Tom Brady for having different perspective on health and fitness. The guy's, I don't know, I think 43 years old and a super level athlete that doesn't get injured. I'm like, I don't know, seems to be doing something right. Why do you feel the need to shit on him? A lot of people are like all over him for his training. I'm like, guys, like probably the greatest football player of all time. I'm like, I don't know, seems to be doing something right.
I would read that book. Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Well,
I'm the greatest. Puts out a book on how to be like him. It's like, yeah.
Well, he doesn't lift weights, right? He does all the
bands, like,
Yeah.
I actually spent how much did I say? I think $250 is I think what it was, and I went to the Tom Brady training center and had I was like, I just want to go and see what it is. Like, that's what I just want to see. It was worth the money to me to go and do a session and see what it was about.
Do you is Alex Guerrero working on you?
He was there.
He really?
He was there.
That's awesome.
I was like, yep, that's Alex Guerrero. I think it was 90 minutes. They talked to me for like a half hour. They got like all my injury history. They got my goals of what they wanted, of what I wanted out of it. And then they put me through like maybe a half hour or 40 minutes of training. And most of it was with bands. And I don't know how to say it. It was very taxing, but it was like nothing else I ever did. Like, I remember, I think I had like a band here and a band here, and they were like, now push forward, push forward, push forward. And while you're doing it, like scissor back and forth with your legs. And I was like, oh my God, this feels so far. Like, it was really hard to do. And it would be short bursts. It would be like, I'd be doing it for like 20 seconds and I get done. And I was like, oh my God, I was like so winded. I remember they had me on a weird treadmill. And when I say a weird treadmill, it was like monitoring how my legs moved and like where they hit down on the treadmill. It was a taxing workout considering it was only like 30 or 40 minutes. And then when you get done, they give you the super secret Tom Brady massage. They give you this like massage, and it's like they get like each part of your body, they'll have you contract the muscle and they massage you well. So like you'd be like, flex your bicep, go, 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 go. And they're massaging it the whole time. And then they do it with your hamstrings, they do it with your calves. Like, you'd be flexing and pointing your legs so that your calves would be like locking, and they're like, massaging the whole entire time. I got out of there. I felt really good. But that being said, it's $250 per session.
Per session?
Yeah. Is that a financially attainable thing for a normal, for somebody that's not making $10 million a year or whatever, like, I had no problem paying $250 to see what it was about. In fact, I think I got my money's worth. But if you want to work out 5 days a week, I mean, do you have $1,250 a week to be, paying? It's a lot of money.
That's incredible. So, Don, how do you come up with your jokes? I'm always curious how different comedians come up with their stuff.
I'd like to know how I come up with my jokes. Some of them are just, real life, complete, like no bullshit. Like, that thing happened to me and I talk about it. Sometimes it's just something that's just pissing me off, like, you know, some topic that might be pissing me off. And some of it is like, I just sit down and literally just write and write and write. And this is something that I found to be good or beneficial, to write and not put pressure on yourself to come up with something funny instantly. Like sometimes it's good to just pick up the pen and just write, you know, whatever you're thinking about. And sometimes you write a sentence and then you look at the sentence and you're like, oh, if I say this, that's a joke now. Boom. And like you weren't even intending when you were writing this, the quote unquote, when you're writing the setup to have the punch be the next thing. Like you wrote a line out and you were like, if I say this, now that's a joke. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a fan. What I was never a fan of was comedians that lie on stage. I feel like you need to be authentic. You know, where you just make up random jokes about like, oh, there's a dragon or whatever. Like all of my stuff is literally stuff. I don't even tell jokes anymore. Like the next time I get on stage, it's literally going to be a collection of stories that have actually happened that probably are so outlandish that they don't seem real, but they're definitely real.
That's weird when that happens, when you have a story that's so bizarre that it's like it just doesn't come off as reasonable. Like it just doesn't come off as being a real story. People will think you're lying.
But,
I think that you can be funny lying, but I mean, it's obviously funnier if, you know, it's a real story and it's really like you and your personality. And I think that's why like some of the bigger, more successful comedians in the world, it's almost like their fan base knows them as friends. And what I mean by that is when you're joking around with your friends and you do something that's funny, they'll be like, that is so Eddie. Oh my God. It's part of why it's funny is it matches up with who you are. And as you get to be somebody like Bill Burr, you know, or Dave Chappelle, and you're like, you have just this overwhelming fan base that knows you. You know, when you go to see Dave Chappelle, you're not going to see comedy. You're going to see Dave Chappelle. And it's like when he comes up with a joke and you're like, that is so Chappelle. Like, oh my God. Like, yes. Like it resonates with you more because you know that person. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like an inside joke.
Yeah, in a way, you're like, it's like, oh, that's so Chappelle, you know?
And did you ever do any college? You were doing colleges, right?
No, not really. I've only done like a couple of them.
I think the worst show that I ever had was at Emerson, which I tell everyone that when I talk to a comedian who went to Emerson, I just tell them that we're not going to work out if I'm trying to book a show.
What happened?
It was just like they came up to me beforehand. They told me like, you know, wanted a copy of the jokes I was going to tell.
They wanted a copy of them? Jeez.
They just wanted to make sure it was going to be like okay for that environment or whatever, which I thought was really weird.
What year?
This is like, you know, it was like 2010, 2009 when it
was a lot freer back then.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like now. But have you encountered anything like that when you're on stage where, you know, do you regulate your jokes now based on what's going on in the world, or are you like fucking I'm moving forward?
I'm not trying to turn an audience off. So if I go out there and I know I say XYZ, it's gonna fucking turn them on me. I'm not gonna say XYZ. I'm not going out to piss them off just for the sake of pissing them off. So in that respect, I mean, you know, maybe I'll shy away from something, but it's not like if I think the joke's fucking funny and I think it'll work and it'll like, if I think people in the room will like it, I will tell the joke, even if it's going to offend some people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that is interesting. I mean, I saw the Chappelle special where it seemed like he was trying to offend people on purpose.
It was
awesome.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
At a level, it's just fucking crazy. Like I watch what him and Burr say, and I'm just like, oh my God, how did they get away with this? Like it's just, but it's by the time you get done listening to him, you're like, yeah, you know, like it makes sense. Like I can't even think of anything. I'm trying. Burr just says some stuff that I'm just like, how does he get away with it? Like, and it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Which bit?
Like, did you see him do the thing on his last one? He goes, let's make this clear. He goes, No doesn't mean no. All right. And everybody's like, oh, and he goes, no, that means no. But no, stop it. Stop. No, you're incorrigible. You're so bad. No. And he goes, you end up in court and you get a bad read. And the guy's like, and then she said, no, please, no, stop. Don't do this. You're incorrigible. No. And he's like, I shouldn't say it like that. Like it's just like, but the way he just brings it, it's just, it's amazing.
It is unbelievable. His joke, his bit he does about the black versus white athletes.
Oh God,
incredible.
Is this the one where he's talking about like I think he says something like Hitler was like, I'm going to create a master race. And Berg, yeah, I think we beat you to that by about 200 years. And then he says something to the effect of like, he's talking about like some black kid that he went to high school with, and he goes, 200 years of this, and I'm supposed to D you up in gym class?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to D you up in gym class. What a line. That is just amazing.
Like you got the guy's balls in your face.
Yeah.
He's so funny. Where did he start out? He started out in Cambridge, right? Was he?
No,
he was from
Nick's comedy.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think he started in 92, if I remember correctly. I remember listening to him on a podcast talk about it. Nick's is like my favorite play. I love going to Nick's. It's a shithole, but I love it. So whenever somebody talks about Nick's, I'm always like, what? Did they just say Nick's? So, like I get really into it.
That's cool. That's funny. Yeah. So do you have anything? Did you have shows planned that were canceled when everything happened?
Yeah. Or? I don't know what the fuck they are, but yeah, I did. I don't know. I had 6 or 7 things lined up, and then that's when the quarantine looked like it was only going to go until like we didn't know when it first started. I was like, oh, what's this going to go like a month? And then it just was to the point where you don't book anything anymore, So I didn't even bother looking at my schedule. Once it got to like 2 weeks in, I was like, oh, anything that I have for April, May, and probably June is not going to occur.
Yeah, that is interesting that you said about the no one's going to want to go indoors anymore. Because now I'm thinking the wheels are spinning. I'm like, wow, I wonder if like an outdoor small comedy club would work.
I haven't heard a comedy club, but I've heard outdoor comedy.
Oh, like an outdoor, like a.
No, I like it. No,
like an out.
I think an outdoor show. Yeah, I mean,
like a small, like not like an amphitheater, but like a really small place where you just got like a stage and everything's outdoors. I guess.
An outdoor anything now after this point.
There's no way people are going to a comedy club. It's just not going to happen.
I don't know. I just don't know. I hope that heat wipes this thing out. Like, I don't know. I keep hearing that, like, oh, when it gets warm out, like, the virus could die. That would be great. Like, imagine if we get the summer back. Imagine how fucking fun the summer will be if it's like, what? The virus doesn't do anything in the heat? Like, woohoo! Like, you'd have a good few months to get your sanity back. We'd have some fun.
Well, the big problem is going to be living in the Northeast where it's cold, 8 months a year in Boston. We get 2 weeks of nice weather. People are going to get sick of staying in the house.
Dude, it was 78 degrees yesterday. I can't tell you how many people were walking around like
everybody
crazy.
Yeah, I wasn't around this weekend. I was doing 20-hour podcasts.
Dude,
that's so funny when you messaged me.
I went on the page just to like check out some of the podcast. I was like, all right, let me just get a rough vibe of what this is about. And I'm like, I looked at one of them and it said 6. I'm like, they couldn't have done 6 minutes and 29 seconds. That's way too short. And I'm like, 6 hours and 29 minutes. That's way too long. There's no way that any sane human being would do a podcast for 6 hours and 29 minutes.
Tell you what, that was rough, man. That was like, you get to like the 3rd hour and you're like, man, I gotta get up. I gotta take a break, and you just can't. You gotta power through it.
It was like 75 hard.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
2 days, 7, like 6.5 and 7.5 hours.
Did you guys take bathroom breaks?
Yeah, I had 1 bathroom break a day. Yeah, somebody popped in for me.
Oh my God, dude, that is fucking.
Your son?
Nah, the other moderator popped in, but yeah.
I gotta tell you, I did think about this. This kind of inspired me for a second, because then I saw you had another one. I forget how long it was. Like, but it was not that much shorter. It was like there was another one that I saw that was like, 4 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah, that was Friday night. Yeah.
5 hours and 55 minutes or whatever it was. And I thought to myself, because I'm in the process of starting a podcast right now myself. And the thing about comedy is it does take a while to get good, because it takes a while to get that many spots, to be on stage that much, to get that many reps. And same thing in anything you do, but like I was thinking about podcasting, and when I saw how long you did, I said to myself, what if you were a fucking psychopath and you scheduled 5 people a day for an hour at a time, and you did that for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So think about that. So there would be 35 hours of podcasting per week times 2 weeks. You'd have 70 hours of experience in 2 weeks. Like, maybe you could become really good at podcasting in like a month. Like, you could go from like a novice to like really fucking good in a month. I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Possibly. I mean, do you know what I did? Do you know what I did this weekend?
Podcast.
Someone asked me. A friend of mine was putting on a virtual WrestleCon, kind of like the wrestling conventions where you go get autographs and stuff. And the wrestlers aren't making money, and the authors aren't making money. It's like, let's just do it virtually. And we had the guy on our podcast, and he asked me, he's like, "Hey, any way you would moderate it?" It was every half hour from 8 a.m. until 4:30, Saturday and Sunday. It was a new guest, and a lot of the time I didn't really, I wasn't familiar with their work, so I'd have to like Google real quick to see who they were, so I'd come up with relevant questions on the spot, keep the conversation going, try to take questions from the crowd, all while keeping my sanity and sitting in a chair the whole time.
That's a lot, dude. And
it was great. I mean, it was awesome.
Do that.
It was awesome.
What?
It was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome experience.
That's great, but like, dude, that's 8.5 hours of being on camera. Was it all filmed?
Yeah.
Okay. 8.5 hours of being on camera. Like, dude, it's a lot of practice. It really is.
Yeah. So no, it is. I mean, didn't Chappelle do like a 24-hour gig one night?
He did. Him and Dane Cook both did some weird fucking numbers. Like, it's crazy. It's like they did like 9 hours or something like that. I mean, when you're one of those guys, yeah, you can stay on stage forever. I mean, you can go through material, which both of those guys have tons of material, but then you can also just talk. When you're Dave Chappelle, you can just talk, and that's material, if you will. And I'm sure it was entertaining as fuck. Like, I'm sure she, but at that point, I mean, 9 hours, it's like you're just, I don't know, you're just staying on stage at that point. It's not like either of those. I don't know how to say it. It's like they both know they can do it if they want to. Yeah.
See, what I like about this is I don't have to memorize anything.
It's great.
There's nothing worse than being up there. Like, I would always forget my stuff. I just didn't have the dedication. Like, I was telling Billy, like, I was at one of the shows. I forgot where it was, what open mic it was in Boston. And I looked over and someone had like a backpack full of notebooks, of written material. Like, I literally don't have that. I write my stuff, in my head. Yeah, I know. That's dedication. That's why you were able to complete 75 hard.
More of them. And that's what I have upstairs. I have other ones downstairs. I remember I was talking to Jimmy Dunn. I don't know if you know who Jimmy Dunn is.
Yeah, I know him.
He mentioned this once. I just always thought it was telling. He goes, I was in LA once, and he goes, I stayed at Gulman's house for like a night. And Gary Gulman's like, I'm not even joking. He could very well be the best like writer I've ever fucking seen in my life.
I tell people that all the time. That's one of the reasons that I wonder what happened, because if it was 1985, Gary Gulman would own he'd own the world.
The world. That's a great way to say it. Like,
it's not even close.
He's so set up punch. It's just, it's crazy. Like, watching him is, and by the way, he's an amazing performer too. Like, he knows how to perform and deliver his material. Like, it's with such nuance. It's awesome. But there's other people that know how to, deliver material awesome, and, it really resonates with you too. But his writing, I'm like, I'll put his writing up against like anybody, like literally anybody. And anyways, I remember Jimmy said, he goes, I was at Gulman's house. He goes, I walked into the kitchen and he's like, there was just a stack of notebooks like this high. He's like, I just walked in, I looked at it, he's like, yeah, that's why he's Gary Gulman. Like, that's why he's like, he just, and it wasn't showing off or anything. He's like, it was just a stack of like 40 notebooks that were just all written, No.
Who are some guys that you think are really good that don't get enough, recognition?
Well, besides myself, no. I don't know. It's a great question. Who doesn't get enough recognition?
I mean, honestly, I think Gary Gulman doesn't get enough.
I don't think he does from the standpoint of, I guess, yeah, he qualifies for that 100% because I think that he should be a name that's like on everybody's tongue. Like,
did he win last Comic Standing?
Yeah, he was. I think he came in second or third or something. But I mean, his jokes are just so ridiculous. It's just like you watch it and you're like, how do you do that better? Like, how do you even improve on it? Yeah, I always say that he should absolutely be like more famous than he is. I mean, he has a level of fame, but it's, it should be at a higher level.
I'll tell you what, there's another guy who I think is extremely funny, is Joe List.
Oh, Joe List is hilarious.
His joke that he does about when I show everyone I know this clip, when he goes to like get a drink of water or whatever, and his sister or friend asks him to check on the baby.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, you want me to come back and possibly deliver you the worst news of your life. You might want to sit down for this. But I checked on the baby.
So Joe List took me out literally the first 2 nights I ever went out to view stand-up comedy. I was with Tom Dustin, and I met Tom Dustin because there's a comedian that doesn't get the credit that he fucking deserves. Tom Dustin is hilarious, and I'm like, he gets like 1% of what's due him. Like he has the respect of comics, but I feel like he should have the respect of comedic society. You know what I mean? Like he's that funny. But I became friends with Tom Dustin through a college friend who was friends with Tom in high school. And I was talking with him and I was like, oh, dude, you do stand-up comedy? And this was like in 2004. And he goes, yeah. And I was just blown away. Like, I was like, really? Tell me more about it. So he did. And I was like, do you think maybe you could take me out one night? And he's like, yeah, okay. So he took my number and I took his. And he was living with Joe List at the time. And I remember him and Joe List and I went to the Comedy Connection in 2004. And then I didn't have the balls to do it. And I waited like another 3 years. And we went out in 2007. Again, me, Tom, and Joe. And then I had the balls to do it, but I ate my dick for 50 minutes on stage. And I took a year off. And then I came back in 2008. And that's when I kept doing it. But then I always think about that. I'm like, I went the first 2 nights I was ever really around comedy, like trying to get in it. I was with Tom Dustin and Joe List.
Now Joe was touring with Louis, right?
Yeah.
I was shocked when I heard how long he was touring for. I'm like, man, how is he not headlining everywhere? But it's just a different world now, right? Where I don't know if it's
now. Joe's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
well, he had the net. I know he had the Netflix.
Joe is starting to get his due. Like Joe is starting to get the credit that is rightfully due him.
Yeah, but I do think about those young. You ever watch those young comedian shows on HBO back in like 88, 89? When Dangerfield was hosting?
Yeah, I mean, the guy Bob Nelson who did the balloon bit. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He puts so they look like shoulder pads, and he comes out and he did like the All-American team, and it was just amazing. And then after he gets done doing the All-American team, like he would put them into his shirt, and he'd be like, he's doing an impression of my dream girl, my grandmother, my dream girl. It was that bit was amazing. Then there was some really big names.
Sam Kinison, obviously. It's such a different world back then.
Sam Kinison.
I mean, they were literally rock stars back then, and like you said, now it's just everyone is doing open mic. You know, you go to open mic, there's 27 people there, 35 people. You know,
Brutal.
that's the big difference between New York and Boston. You know, at least in New York, you have to bring seven paying guests with you to build the crowd, and if you can't get them, you're not getting stage time. So there's something in it for you. You know, you got to put a little skin in the game. It makes it easier to get stage time, I think. Whereas up here, you know, you can show up, you don't get out until midnight, and you can only get to do one place, and maybe it's only comedians that, you know, they're even in the crowd.
Yeah, that's. I fucking hate that. I hate if you go to an open mic and it's just comedians. I'm like, oh. And usually, if you're at an open mic, it's not even high level comedians. I'm not saying that like an elitist, but I mean, it's like you're performing for, you know, open micers. It's not even like it's like, you know, you're going to get like a vast level of feedback from advanced comics or something like that. Yeah, that's just brutal. I can't stand when, yeah. I started to have a little bit of an elitist attitude towards that before the quarantine. I was like, I have to start using my time better. I used to be like, well, I'll go out to this shitty mic and this shitty mic. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know if that's necessarily a good investment of my time. Yes, I'm making the effort and I'm going out and I'm putting some time in, but I'm like, even if I'm allowed to cut the line, which does happen sometimes, you know, they're like, oh, we'll put you up right away, which I'm incredibly grateful for. It involves, say, leaving my house and, you know, I don't know, driving to Charlestown and then doing the set there and then driving over to Somerville and, you know, waiting to do a little bit of set there and then drive home. And it's like, okay, I was just on stage for, you know, I don't know, 12 to 15 minutes maybe, but yet it took 4 hours of my life, and that was with people letting me cut the line. Like that's a lot of time commitment. And then I look at the weekend and I'm like, oh, I can go out and do, you know, anywhere from a half hour to 45 minutes on Friday and Saturday night. I'm like, that's a much, and get paid for it, obviously, but I'm like, that's a much better investment of my time. Like, I realize I got to try out material, and that's what, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays are for. But I also realized that, you know, you can cram it into like, you know, your good weekend sets and be like, it's a lot more efficient use of your time, is what I feel.
I would love to see it make a comeback where there's more comedy, more actual comedy clubs instead of people hosting, you know, open mic in like a flat room at a bar. You can't do comedy without a stage. I've done a lot of open mics where you're like literally on the same level with the audience, and it just doesn't make.
I would prefer a stage, but whatever. I mean, I've performed on enough non-stages that whatever, you can get it done.
Have you ever had any daytime gigs where it's like, you know, corporate during the day where no one's drinking?
I don't really do corporate because I'm not exactly clean, but I've definitely done daytime gigs. I don't know where, but I know I've done them. It doesn't really stick out in my head too much. There wasn't like overly terrible that I like, oh my God, I'm scarred from this. That's something I always realize. I'm like, I've done a lot of shows in my life, and for the most part, they go pretty well. You know, like, you know, I'm not gonna say they're all gems, but you know, that went well. But it's when something goes really bad that you're like, oh, I remember that one. That one sticks out in my head. You know what I mean? Like it's the shitty ones that will always resonate, that you always remember. Like there's countless people that after shows, they're like, man, I had such a great time. Thank you. I had an awesome time. But then it's like one person will insult you and you remember that. You don't remember the other hundreds of people that were, you know, appreciative beforehand.
Yeah, it doesn't take one person. I know every show that I've bombed because literally no one. When I bomb, no one laughs. I make sure that that's how bad it is. What's the biggest show you ever bombed at?
I don't know if this is the worst I've ever bombed, but it was like the worst I've ever felt, I think, on stage. Here, I'll tell you a couple of them. One night I was doing Nick's Comedy Stop in 2012, and I remember I wasn't in a good mind place at the time. I remember it, and it was like 95 degrees out. It was ridiculously hot. It was 8 o'clock at night, and it was still just ridiculously hot. And I had to do like I don't know, 25 minutes. And this is when I had about 25 minutes of material. And I am talking like 7 minutes in, I've already done 15 to 20 minutes of material because no one is laughing at all. And it's just like, there's no space for laughter. So like your time that you have shrinks. And then on top of it shrinking, you speed up because you're getting a little bit more nervous, and it's really fucking hot in there. So now I'm like sweating, and then I'm sweating because of the bombing. And I got off stage at the end of 25 minutes, and I just looked at my shirt, and it was like I just played a basketball game. Like it was dripping sweat. Like, look, and I was like, that was fucking awful. And there was people there that I knew, which is, when you bomb in front of strangers, whatever. When you bomb in front of people that you know, yeah, disgusting. That and I remember once this. I'm not gonna say where it happened because I don't want to shit on the club or the people that run it or anything of that nature. But it was a rough night. There's no security in the room, and it's like 300 people that paid to go to this show, and all I wanted to do was time a bit because I was going to be auditioning for Last Comic Standing, and I just wanted to time this one bit. I needed to do, I think it was like 4 minutes, and so I called up this club owner and I just said, "Can I just do a guest set? I just want to time a bit." And he's like, "Yeah." So I go there and I was like, "All right, I'm going to do the bit. But before I do the bit, I'll just open with this joke just to get them laughing." And the joke to get them laughing was in 2014, which is obviously a year after the marathon bombing. So the joke was, I was really upset. I had this marathon fantasy that I wanted to happen this year, and how sad it didn't. I wanted this year for us to like maybe 10 minutes before the winners crossed the finish line. I wanted us to just throw Barack Obama out for the last quarter mile. Like, how fucking cool would that be? Like last year you bombed us. This year we brought our fucking president. Like what a fuck you to terrorism that would be. Be amazing. Like USA, USA. And I was like, still Boston though. There'd be some guys from Southie at the finish line like, Fitzy, do you believe this shit? Another Kenyan. And the joke at the time was that they were questioning whether Obama was an American citizen. They were calling him a Kenyan. Kenyans win the marathon. A Boston racist reference. It was mixing them all together. The Boston guys are dumb at the finish line. And this, like, I just hear somebody in the darkness of the audience just yelling, and I couldn't even make out what they were saying, except for they kept saying "fuck" over and over. And I was like, I can't even see you. Like and I'm like, I'm putting my hand up to like brush the light, and I'm like, who's even talking? And I just hear the black guy. That's who's talking. The black guy. And all of a sudden, I see off to my right, this guy's coming out of the shadows, and I'm like, and he's like walking up to the stage, and I was like, yes. And I'm like, what's your problem? And he's like, you're my problem. That's it. He's like, you're my problem. And I'm like, are you pissed because you think the joke's racist? I don't really know why you're here. Like, I don't know why you're at the stage. And he's like, give me the fucking microphone.
Whoa.
And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And he's, give me the fucking microphone. And now when he responded to me that way, I was like, it's on. So like we went back and forth in this pissing contest for about, I don't know, 20 seconds of give me the fucking microphone. I'm like, you get the fuck out of here. And like the way I say it is, I wasn't ashamed of how I dealt with it as a man. I probably could have handled it better as a comedian. But I mean, what do you do when somebody comes up to the stage and tries to take the mic out of your hand? And I was just like, it was brutal. And eventually I just stared him down and he walked out. And I remember I tried to get the crowd on my side. I was like,
yeah,
that was something I said too as he was there. I go, you know how selfish you're being right now? I go, for whatever reason you're coming up here and you're trying to make this show about yourself instead of all these people that have paid $25 or $30 and you're ruining all of their nights because you want to do this. And I said that to him, and not one clap. I remember being like, this is fucked up. This is where the audience is supposed to rally around me because I'm defending the honor of the show. Not one fucking bit. I get into it with the guy. He finally fucking leaves after about 20 or 30 seconds of us just staring at one another. And it was just, I tried to time the bit that I was going to do. I addressed it before I went into the bit, and the crowd just was not having it. And I just did like a 4-minute bit to like fucking silence. I mean, I addressed it, but the crowd just was not having it. And I always remember being like, that was really fucked up. Like, I didn't do anything to deserve that from that guy, but let's pretend that I did for one split second. I'm like, I think I handled it in a manner that I was trying to cast him as the person that's ruining everybody's evening, which he was. And the crowd just wouldn't have it. Then I remember I was at the bar just trying to cool off. I was really fucking angry. And he comes up and he's like, he's like, you got to understand, man. He's like, I do comedy up in Portland. And I was like, you do comedy? Like, and that's what he wanted to do time. Like, he thought he was going to fucking like he was going to come in and, save the day and all of a sudden steal the show by doing comedy at the comedy show. And I was just like, I was beyond, like, I was like, I couldn't even talk. I was just like, get the fuck away from me. He's like, no, man, I just want to tell you, you got to hear my side. I'm like, no, I don't have to hear your side. I'm like, I don't want you around me. Like, you just being near me is making me angry. And he tried to apologize like 2 or 3 more times. And I was like, dude, get the fuck away from me. And he just left.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was brutal. Those are 2 of the roughest.
I'll tell you, the two things that I can never recover from. Hecklers, no way. I have no idea how to respond to them. And if my opening joke doesn't get a laugh, I might as well just be like Larry David and walk off stage. You know what I'm talking about? When you use that opening joke and the crowd just doesn't buy it, and you're like,
oh, brutal.
This is going to be a long, however long your set is.
How great is it when you come out and you throw out like a little one-liner and it works like fucking magic? I remember for a long time I used to open, and it was just an interesting way to do it. I just walk out on the stage, and for lack of a better phrase, I just walk out kind of sexy. Like, you could tell I'm trying to sell it, just like, and I'd look around, and then I just start like a group of women, and I just stare. And so I haven't said anything, and it's just building tension, and I'll be like, it's a pretty good chance I'm taking one of you home tonight. And that just gets a laugh. Like, they're like, I can't believe this guy's saying it. And then I'd be like, I drive for Uber. And that would work most of the time. But when it didn't, I felt like a dickhead. I was like, that was the joke. Apparently you guys didn't see it.
Did you end up trying out for Last Comic Standing?
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Yeah, that was trying out for Last Comic Standing was one of the worst experiences of my life.
What happened? Because
it was in New York, and I was literally poor at this. I was like, in my life, I was poor. And it had to be 2004, 2005. It was the year where Anthony Clark was the host. And what happened was I had literally no money. And a friend of mine had given me a counterfeit $50 bill. So, like, my buddy was like, I'll drive you to New York if you want. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, he's like, yeah, you want to give me gas money? I'm like, well, I got this, like, counterfeit $50 bill. I'm like, you want to just... He's like, all right, I'll take that then. So I give him this counterfeit $50 bill. I have glasses. My glasses broke on the way up there. So I had like only one arm to my glasses. So now I'm waiting in line for like, 18 hours or whatever. Ugh. And then I decide now I'm on stage. I'm not using my glasses, so I can't see anything anyway. And I decide I'm going to tell a joke I've never told before because I decided to write a joke while I was in line. I'm like, this would be a good time to write a new joke. So yeah, that was
I'm not against writing a new joke in line, but I am against writing a new joke that you're going to use for your, last comic standing set.
But yeah, that was a miserable experience just waiting there. And it was when YouTube. I remember someone behind me was like, "Oh, there's this new thing called YouTube." I'm like, "What the hell is YouTube?" Like, "Oh, you put like your comedy bits on there." I'm like, "Why would I want to put my videos on this thing called YouTube?"
Yeah, I remember me and my buddy Nick. You ever hear of Nick Pine?
No.
He was in Boston for a few years. He went to college here. He was like, I don't know, he was like 20, or he's about 20. He might even been a teenager when he started. And I was like, I don't know, 30, 32, or I was like 32 or something like that. And I always just thought it was funny. I became friends with this kid. And it's like, he's 18, I'm 32. We just have different lives, but it was like, I don't know.
That's like a sitcom.
Yeah, but I remember we were talking about, like, we were joking about, because it was like when YouTube came out, and we're like, dude, I heard there's a scout from YouTube. Like, if this goes well, you're gonna go on YouTube. That was like always our big joke between each other, because we didn't really understand what it was, but we knew you could put your own shit on there. Nick Pine has arguably, I don't even think he does stand-up comedy anymore. He's on a show on NBC. I think it's called AP Bio. He plays like a real nerdy kid in this TV show, and but he had like the best opener I had ever seen. It just caught me so off guard. He's he's kind of a nerdy looking kid, and he'd walk out on stage and he'd just look around and he'd go, "A little bit about myself. I'm 5'5". I weigh 105 pounds. I'm a chemical engineer major at Boston University. I collect comic books. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, Nick, can you save some pussy for the rest of us?" And he gets like super masculine, like as he says it, like, hey, and then like the crowd would be laughing hysterically, and he just look out at them as they're laughing, and he goes, "No, I can't." Like, no, I can't save any pussy for the rest of you. I was always like, oh, that joke put me on the floor. It's one of those things too, where like a joke can be funny, but if it matches your look or your personality or whatever, it goes to like an even higher level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of the best jokes I've ever heard in my life was from Robert Schimmel. Do you know Robert Schimmel?
Yeah.
He was on those Rodney Dangerfield specials from the 1980s. I love this joke. I think it's a brilliant joke in general, but it matched up with just the way he looked and his personality and his delivery. And he was like, so I've been trying to have a threesome with my wife for years. And he's like, she would never even address it with me. He goes, I finally got her to at least talk to me about it. And she was like, all right, if we're going to bring another woman into the bedroom, she's like, I'll do it. But first, we got to bring in another guy from me. Like, I'm going to let that fucking happen. So I'm sucking this guy's dick. And, and the way that he just says it and the way that he looks up, so I'm sucking this guy's dick. It just catches you so off guard. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, I remember the first time I was just like, I was on the floor laughing. So I'm sucking this guy's dick.
Hold on. We have a comment here from, hold on. Lori McKay says, I went to Fitchburg with Don for a short time.
She sure did.
All right, well, Don, listen, I'm gonna let you get out of here. But where can people find you? Facebook? Do you have a Twitter? I try to find you on Twitter.
I do. I hardly ever use it. I think it's at Don Zollo. I think Twitter is like the worst of all the internet stuff. Like, Facebook is terrible in terms of fighting, but there's a lot of good stuff on Facebook too. I find that Twitter is like 90% shit. Instagram is very friendly. I find Instagram to be like, look at my tits. Do you like my dog? Like, that's the vibe of Instagram.
I know, but then I have to put up. Then I gotta put up a picture. Means I have to take like a creative picture. I don't use Instagram. I literally have 2 posts on Instagram. I don't know how to use it. I can't figure out why people use it. I like Twitter. I like the short little one-liners.
I get that, but I usually do my one-liners and stuff on Facebook.
Right.
But and I also, I don't know, people on Facebook, most of them I know. Twitter's usually strangers. I like Instagram with the pictures and stuff. I find it easy to use. I got to learn TikTok. I set up an account, but there's not one fucking thing on it. But yeah, any of the stuff, it's like, Instagram / Don Zollo, or Twitter / Don Zollo, or Facebook / Don Zollo. With my
All
name
right, well,
scroll.
Don Zollo, he'll be back performing when the quarantine's over and the coronavirus is gone. Well, Don, hey, listen, honestly, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I know you were like, oh, what kind of show is this? Probably no one's listening or whatever, but
Dude,
appreciate it.
I had a blast, man, and I'll talk with you tonight or tomorrow because I'm going to get some insight into starting my own. Like I said, I literally just started my own podcast, and I haven't even dropped the first episode. It's in the can, as they say in Hollywood. But I got to learn some of that stuff, so you might be able to help me.
All right, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, that'll wrap it up for Let Me Ask You This.